What is going on, my Atomic Autoworks friends? So today, bad news. All this work we've been putting into this Corvette, lots and lots of work, and, well, that's not the Corvette, that's the Camaro. It's going bye-bye. We had to pause it, had to put it on hold, and it's a sad thing when stuff like this happens. Actually, I'm gonna put you on the tripod so I don't have to hold this thing. Everybody's saying too close. That's way too close. Hold on. All right, so this is one of the most common things in auto restoration and custom builds. And it's really difficult because most of us are dreamers, very passionate. We really know what we want and we have our dreams, but sometimes reality gets into play. So one of the most common things that I see happening with builds over the last 40 years, 30 years, I just added 10 years to my age. But one of the most common things I see is we get involved in things, and more so now than ever, it's difficult. It's difficult for our customer and it's difficult for a shop because we all know how expensive things are. And we all know how valuable your money is. We work really hard for our money. It takes a long time to do the right thing and save up money. And the hardest part we usually get in this business is a lot of people will put a dollar amount on what they feel they want to spend. And you'll hear me say it a million times. I bet you we have 100 videos out there where we say all the reasons why we are a time and material shop. And we also say what we think is good is micro goals, where you say, okay, let's not worry about getting this car done for $5. Let's worry about fixing what's in front of us, getting that done, getting it done right, document it, and then we move to the next step. Once that's done and we're happy, we continue to the next step. And this isn't something that I came up or anybody came. This is something that's how the business used to be. Like 30 years ago, it was just a totally different world. People would get involved in a project knowing that this is their lifelong dream they want to do. They're going to start it, do it right. If they run out of funds or something happens, they have a hiccup, put it on hold, but they know it's right to that point. Then you start it up again at the next point and keep going. Obviously, some people who have the financial means to just keep the project going, those are the ones that get it done quick, and you don't have to stop, which is great. But we get it. Most of us in middle America don't have that huge amount of money to spend. And when I say it's a huge amount of money, it's a lot of money to build a car, truck, motorcycle, anything. And basically, what I always tell people is to just look at your shop you're dealing with labor rate. It's simple math. You have time plus parts plus materials. And you add that all up, and that's what it is. And unfortunately, because our overheads are always so high in the shop, we can't have wiggle room. It's not like 1982 where labor rates were low, overhead was low, and you could afford to put more time into things. Things here we're in the Northeast of the United States, and things here are very expensive. It's crazy. When I look at it and add it up, because I always joke around, or not joke around, but I'll say, if a shop's labor rate is $150 an hour, you just multiply that times 8 hours in a day, right? So you look at, when you add up the numbers, $150 times 8 hours a day is $1,200 times 5, $6,000 times 52, 300 and something, $312, $1,000, whatever. I'm gonna have to do the math. But anyway, it's a lot of money. So it adds up. So if you think about it, you want someone to go work on your car. And everybody thinks that a shop has some miracle thing where they could just go through and knock things out way faster than you. And yes, a shop is more productive than someone working in their garage. And yes, when you get on something and you stay on something, as you go through the pace, consistency, you actually move a lot farther along. Is when you stop a project and have to get back into it every week or whatever, it does add some time to it because no matter who you are, you have to kind of get refreshed with the job and get back into that position. With that said, we get it. Everything's difficult. You add it up, the materials, and it's not even just the labor is expensive. The parts are expensive. The materials are expensive. And I try to, tell people, and for some reason people don't understand. They assume that when you say a gallon of paint's $1,200, that you're making $1,150 on it. They don't realize that because everything's so expensive, us as shops sometimes have to try to wiggle it down and keep it down so we're not really making much money on stuff just to keep projects going, which is a horrible business practice because it's not good for the shop and it's not good for business. Unfortunately, sometimes you do that for customers because you want to get projects done. Like this one here, we really wanted to finish it for the gentleman. He was a very nice guy, and you want to make people happy. And so I was very excited to go through. We wanted to show you guys the color matching, which we did, and put it into color, paint it, and get it all done. And we're this close. That's what really kills you, is you're only like 2 weeks away from paint. And what ends up happening is, again, Um, People put budgets on things, and whether you can afford it or not afford it, whatever, the budgets are what kill projects all the time. But we get it. You don't want to spend it, you don't have to spend it, and that's people's prerogative. But it's the number one reason why projects don't get completed. And what's hard is a lot of times we'll get people to ask us to do things like just paint it. Don't go any further, just sand it and paint it. Well, one, sanding it is still a lot of hours. You still have to put the time in to do it. The materials are still there. And why would we as a business want to put poor quality paint or anything on a vehicle just to get it done cheap? Whether the customer doesn't care about it or we do care about it, because our name's on it. And that when that goes on the road, if you hear Joe Schmo's Body Shop did this paint job, no one's going to tell you that they did it because they did them an incredible deal and did it for cheap. And we see it all the time. Actually, funny, because if one of our podcasts, one of my friends, Jay Abbey, who came on, we were honest about some of the situations that we went with. And I've seen him go through it where he does way above and beyond for a customer, and then they'll talk poorly about them. And it's funny because when you know someone and you talk to them, and we know the same people that we were dealing with, you see it and you know it. And it's very funny that people are the same thing. Like no one wants to say, oh, well, the reason it looks like crap is because I didn't have the money. It'd be nice if people are honest like that. But the fact is, as a shop, for us, this is our life, our career. It's not just a car that we have that we're going to tool around in and then sell it or whatever. This is us. So for our entire lives, we work on cars. We try to build them really nice, and our reputation is everything to us. It's a very tough juggle to do, and I get it. I never go on the customer side, and because I get it. For me, the funny thing is, everything I do the same thing. I want to try, and I just did it to one of my buddies, and I laughed as soon as it came out of my mouth because I asked for a hard price on something, and then I laughed and I said, you know what, never mind. Because basically, if you can only do something on a specific amount, and you tell them how much you have, that's not what it costs. And for me, I'm different, I guess. I would never ask anybody to work on my project for free. I just would never do that. I just value people's time more than that. And if honestly, when you look at what we did on this car, we tallied up the numbers here, and it's ridiculous. The amount of hours that were put into it, we tallied up our honest hours, and we still have to put it back together and make it a roller, and so that we could move it out of here. We had 149 hours on this car, and that was realigning everything. Some of you who saw the first videos of this came in and saw that the car was really crooked. The fender, we were told the fender, something exploded inside and blew the fender out. There's no way. It was definitely hit somehow because there was too much damage in the front. And then when you put the fender on the car, there was a gap of, probably about 3/4 of an inch. And the customer asked us just to bond it on and extend it. And you can't do that because then the gaps in the front don't match, the back doesn't match. Everything has to be aligned properly. So what we did is we went through and the gap for this was probably about 3/4 of an inch big, and the same thing on the front. And we all know with fiberglass cars, you shim them, they move quite a bit. But this was a lot more than that. There was a lot of stuff that was damaged. Doors were delaminated. Fender obviously was completely blown off. All the fiberglass underneath the front end had to be refiberglassed. When we got to the back, we showed a video of the taillights were 5/8 of an inch off. So that's visible. If you're behind a car and one taillight to the top of the trunk area is here and the other one's here, it's very noticeable. You look at it and it's just crazy. And for some people, that you might not care, but for us, we can't do that and let the car go out looking like that. We'll look like fools. So all that stuff adds up. We do, if anybody ever said that our shop, that's probably one of the reasons why we closed Atomic down as a shop, is because we did so much for people. It's funny because when you do more for people, they expect more and they still don't tell the truth. So a lot of times you'll do a vehicle and what we would do is say, okay, we understand it. Everybody has this fictitious number in their head that they just make up, and we'll go and say, oh, let's bill you out for an 8-hour day, but we only charge you for 6. We document the actual hours on there, but then we only put what was actually spent in time on that vehicle. And it's tough because where do you go? You don't go to your attorney and they don't bill you for 6 hours and work 9 hours. They bill you for 9 hours, and they bill you for every cent they can, and they hammer on you. For some reason, with the restoration world, people get it in the mind that it's negotiable. And what's funny is, for us, when I started off 30 years ago, 30 years ago, 30-something years ago, 35 years ago, we dealt with a lot of average, everyday people, and it was like that. It was really tough, because it's tough when you're struggling through life, trying to save money to build a car, and you know what you want, but you can't afford it. And I went through that, and we got away with that. We started working with more high dollar vehicles that people could pay for it, which allowed us to do what we do and get paid, which was great. And then over the years, we decided a couple of years ago, we decided let's try to do some more work with everyday customers again, because it's nice. I appreciate people. Well, I appreciate people who appreciate what you do. And a lot of people work really hard for their money, and I understand that. And I wanted to give them more than they're paying for. And we tried it, and man, it was an epic flop because it never works out well. You bend over backwards for people, and we have one of these days we're going to go over and show you some of our past bills. We'll obviously black out people's names and stuff, but we're going to show you what was put into the vehicles, what the people were charged, how much of a beating a lot of restoration shops take, because for us, a lot of people like me, where we love what we do and we want to finish cars, trucks, and bikes. We want it done. We want it out there, people seeing it, people enjoying it, and that's the only way it should be. There's a lot of shops that want you locked up and they just keep going until they burn you out and you have no money and da 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 da. We never wanted to be that shop. So if we get to that point, we only got there because we've been over backwards. It's funny because we had like 4 or 5 jobs that we did this with. Not one of them said thank you for going above and beyond, for working hours for free. None of them, not one of them. And it cracks me up because like one of the, everybody's different. We get some people come in, they just want to boast how much money they have and all this other stuff. And it's the old adage, my father had told me that people who have the most say the least. And it's true. And people who have the least say the most. So a lot of people want to flaunt it and be that person. And it's so true because the people that come in that are so like, I got this, I got that, I got this, they don't pay. And we went through that. And we had one car, which we'll go over. We're going to show you the actual time we spent on this, show you the actual materials we spent on it. And you can see the amount of hours we put in for free to help this person out because they came to us in a bad situation previously. And then because of that, which I had told myself, I was an idiot because I said I would never take a job from another shop that was started and not finished and bad, because those people are always penny pinching, cautious. They already got taken advantage of, and now they're afraid you're going to do it. So we set up a thing where everything is dotted, time, material, everything's down there, labor forms written down so you know exactly what was done, no questions, easily transparent. Because of that, and even that sometimes doesn't work because these people just feel they don't want to pay, and it's just crazy. And so with a lot of jobs, we just had to say la vie, just go, because I could only go to a certain point before you're like, is it even worth it? Numbers wise, it's just not worth it. Honestly, it's just not worth it. For instance, I'll say this with this one here. This is a pretty typical situation. This one kind of irritated me. So we actually went through and called the customer up and said, you are at a spot where you owe $450, right? That's it. So you could pay the $450, take the car and leave, or if you want to continue, we could continue working. In about 2 weeks, the car will be painted. We're literally got to finish sanding it, re-prime it with a light high build primer, sand it, paint it. It's right there. Obviously, there's assembly and all that other stuff, but if they want to take it and assemble it themselves, they can, because all that major stuff is done. We love to assemble it, but people don't realize the time, because people go home and tinker, I'll do this day and this in a couple weeks. But in reality, the time that's spent to put things together, making the windshield wipers work, making the radio work, all that little stuff is where all the money is, and time. So anyways, the customer says, go ahead, move forward, let's get it done. Great, right? So we work 1 week on it. Well, we actually worked over a week on it. And it worked out. We had given them a very good our wholesale labor rate, which we don't make money at our wholesale labor rate. That is for our pristine customers. So we used to have this thing called the golden ticket, or the gold club rather, where a customer could come in and pay. If we send you your bill on a Thursday and you're all paid up by a Monday or Tuesday, we'll just keep going on the car and get it done. Those people would get a wholesale rate. They get a reduction on parts, discounts and stuff, and it's a tremendous savings. But the people who don't pay, you end up going retail, and if you don't pay over a certain amount, like it is for our higher volume and higher paying jobs. So it's not for if you come in with a small job. It's for the guys who are giving us a lot of money every year. So we had that ticket on there, and they were getting all of that with this car there. A week of work, they would have had to pay. I think their bill was probably about $6,500, and that included we had to buy the materials for the vehicle, right? So we had yelled at, don't have the money, that's ridiculous. We thought it was going to be done for less money. And if I told the amount of money that it was done for, it's amazing, because we were looking at the numbers and what a basic paint job in our area goes for a car like this, a decent paint job, not Mako or not, just a body shop, squirt it and run, but a restoration paint job. They all start off at like 16 grand, 18 grand. High-end ones are 30 to 60 grand. So it really depends because there's a lot of time and materials, or the time and materials in those processes. I know a lot of people, because a lot of people watch these at home, especially if you're out in the Midwest or in a place that maybe labor rates are less, say that's crazy, but that's what it is up here. They were about to leave. They'd have this whole car aligned, bodywork, fiberglass, all the stuff we did in paint, sanded and buffed for what it would cost for just a paint job. So that's, for me, that's amazing that we even got to that point. It's to me, it's just crazy because they were in a really good position with that. Once we did that, it was kind of like a battle. And it's just like, it's one of those battles what drives me crazy because like I said before, I don't ask people to work for free. Never have, never will. I appreciate the value of a person. And I know not only when someone's honest, but they're completely transparent and they're giving me stuff, how could you possibly be like offensive to that person? They're giving you stuff and it's just crazy. So that kind of, chapped my ass. We had the conversation. I went through and I reduced a lot of labor. Now, when I say I reduced labor, I'd already reduced labor. When we show you the labor form at some point and you see how many hours, like I'm telling you, we are at 149 hours. We probably took off, I don't know, a mass 80 hours, 100, and something ridiculous. Just nobody in the world would do that because we want to see the project done and move forward. After doing that, we reduced it and said, okay, you know what, from the $6,500, which would have covered what they owed plus paid for some of the materials for the paint for the next step, we reduced it and said $1,800, right? $1,800, 1800, right? So I said, that's what you owe. I can't go any lower than that. I've already taken a big hit on it. If you pay that amount of money, you can take the car and move on. And if you want to proceed, great. You can pay that plus the rest of the materials that we need are about $1,800, which is still a wholesale rate for materials. Anybody in a body shop knows if you buy a gallon of a good clear and a half is what it usually takes to do a full car, a gallon and a half, plus the catalyst, plus the reducer. Right there is $1,800. Then you got the base coat, and depending on what product line you're using, the Ontario orange that we're putting on here, that's another, because that's going to be another gallon and a half, another $1,800. And then you put the sealers and the primer and all the other stuff on there, and you're losing money on it, so why even bother? So the customer asked me to finish the car by paying the previous balance and then give me $1,800. And I said, that's insane. I said, you're literally just paying some of what you actually owe, and then now you want me to do all the work and finish the car for less than the cost of the actual materials to buy it. Why would I want to do that? It makes no sense. And so after all that, I get a message that says, how about this? We'll give you the $1,800, and then when you finish the car, we'll give you another $1,800. And I said, that's insane. Like, it's funny because I don't know if I'm going to even post this video, but I just have to get this off my chest because this is the stuff a lot of us go through. And it's not like it used to be. People don't make sense anymore. It's just crazy. So I said, listen, we have 2 weeks worth of work, right? That's 80 hours. 80 hours at our labor rate, it is what it is. He goes, well, I'm going to be double what I wanted to spend. But that's what you wanted to spend, not what it costs. And it's crazy. That's like me going to a builder and say, I want an $800,000 house, but I only have 100 grand. It doesn't make any sense. So anyways, with that said, kind of said more than I should have said in this video, but you know what? I think this is kind of what people need to hear. And that is honestly one of the reasons we closed the shop down a year ago, because I wanted to just get rid of all that stuff. We wanted to finish up some jobs. We wanted to build our own stuff and kind of show you a behind the scenes of us doing what we do. And also, maybe people could see the reality of why shops do what they do. I was talking with a friend yesterday, and I said, this is why people are how they are. This is why one of my friends, he ABAs cars all the time. And that means if you don't come in and pay your bill, you instantly get charged storage fees, and you have to pay everything and take your vehicle. At 30 days, if you don't, they take your vehicle. They own your vehicle. There's a process you have to go through with DMV. And I'm like, I never want to do that. I don't want people's vehicles. I don't want that kind of stuff. But because people get into it and do what they do, they make the shops do what they have to do. And it's just like this horrible juggle. And what sucks is you'll hear customers will always go around saying, oh, they screwed me. They did this, they did that. And And then they don't realize that the other side of it, the businesses are getting taken advantage equally, if not more. Especially nowadays, I'm telling you, with the prices and the overhead and materials so high, the profit margins for a restoration and custom shop are so low, it's scary. So we have to really keep everything on a super tight line to make sure there is a business, and there is profits, and there is this, and there's that. And everybody that's doing this in this industry is passionate about this. They love what they do. So anyways, with that said, I don't mean to offend anybody. I really don't, but I do like to keep things kind of honest and real so you can see it. And we're going to be doing that. We're going to be going over past stories of things that have happened and kind of showcase why and what you do. And unfortunately, sometimes you have some really good customers that get caught up in the mix of the BS of this, and that's what really affects the business as well. And we're going to go over that too, because we've had some great customers who ended up getting caught in the middle of this catastrophe that we went through about a year and a half ago. And we're going to go over that because it's typical business stuff, and it's kind of what reality is.